now we go into the second section. By the way, I would like to ask the candidates to keep an eye on that table for your time. You are allowed 1.5 minutes for a response. I actually have in my hand a news release dated today. Says legislature partisan agree on a $427 million budget cut.
Wow.
Mr. Patterson said the winds of change have come to Albany. We have never cut this amount off a budget without taxing in anyone's memory. We've never gone into a budget and made these types of cuts in an election year. We've never gone into the budget in August. He went on to say that a precedent has been set and that he's confident lawmakers will come back later this year to make more cuts if state revenue forecasts continue to decline. The question to all three of you, beginning of course with Mr. Stewart and Mr. Felder and Mr. Parker, what do you see to be your role in helping to define the shape of any budget cuts? What programs and institutions should not be touched? And how will this community be affected by all this?
Well, first of all, Mr. Tate, to understand the budget process, whereby $500 million is being cut, is to say basically that you are taking away the food from children. First of all, I would safeguard education. I would safeguard the seniors. And as a matter of fact, I would look for ways in which we can increase money coming into the coffers so that we don't have to make those draconian cuts. If we look at what is happening, healthcare is being cut. And it affects mostly central Brooklyn and the counties in downstate. The counties around Brooklyn and the lower part of the state, more than it affects the upstate people. We have to look out for our interests. Yeah. The poor ones will always be suffering, and we have to make sure that our interests are protected in that fashion. And so I will be working with the governor to make sure that the resources are there from the people who make over $200,000 a year in terms of their income. We should be able to tax them to take that money to make sure that our young people and the people down in central Brooklyn are protected.
Thank you, Councilman Stewart. Now, Councilman Felder.
Thank you very much. There's no question that budget cuts of any sort inflict pain. But the real issue is when we talk about change, what has really changed in the way Albany works? It's on record. We send billions of dollars. New York City, you, taxpayers in New York City, send billions of dollars to Albany every single year, and that we do not get back. So a lot has been talked about wonderful things, wonderful change. That has not changed in years. And whether they cut $500 million, another billion, $2 billion, the point is, how does it affect you as taxpayers? And you are getting ripped off by Albany and the legislators that represent you in Albany. You are sending $500 million, $1 billion, another $1 billion up to Albany to pay for upstate. They're getting your money. We're not getting it back. If that doesn't bother you, this shouldn't either.
Okay, Senator Parker.
Well, I just had an opportunity to come back from Albany where I actually voted against the governor's budget cuts. And as many of you know, I'm very close to the governor. I'm the first person to elect him to be the minority leader when he was a senator. But these cuts are, I think, not only are they harsh on the least of those in our community, they're really unnecessary. What we really ought to be talking about is a balance between some revenue enhancements, things like reinstatement of the stock transfer tax, which will put about $3 billion back in our coffers, things like a millionaire's tax. I think $200,000 in the New York City economy is no money. Half of y'all make that between a family of 4. So it got to be at least a millionaire's tax. And so I'm sorry, Dr. McKenzie, that's going to affect you still. But you know, we have to do what we have to do in order to raise revenues in this state. It's the example of you have a family and they have a child and one of the parents is staying home and the other one is working and they realize they're having a crunch. For them not to talk about the idea of sending that other parent out to work is irresponsible. We have to bring revenues into the city and at the same time look at ways to cut fat, not programs. You cut administration, not programs. What the legislators were forced to vote on this past 2 days were cuts to HIV/AIDS programs. There were cuts to children's lunches in schools. It was cuts to blind veterans programs. I mean, absolutely things that are out of control that I thought, you know, did not serve this community. And then these would have had significant effects on our community. So in fact, I will continue to do what I've done, which is be a leader in that community and not just follow what the government says.